typical addictive behavior. You have to have it right now, you have to have more and more all the time. 1 week I spent $8,000 on it. And lied to my wife, and everything that goes along with addiction, all the dishonesty, all the shame and all that. But that also meant that I was also trying to hide from or escape from some kind of pain, some kind of discomfort with myself. Which means that if my clients were traumatized, then maybe not to the same degree, and maybe not in the same way, but so was I. So that, and therefore, I'm saying to you, so are you, at some point in your life. Whether you realize that or not. Otherwise, you would not be working with this population. And that also means that when we talk about vicarious trauma, it's not actually the appropriate word. Vicarious means substitute or instead of. So it's like, it's not that you're being, so vicarious trauma implies purely that you're working with traumatized people and you get traumatized by their trauma. So that you're not traumatized, they are, but you get traumatized because they are and you're working with them. That's not what happens. It's more complicated than that, or it's more simple than that, really. What actually happens to some degree is that the trauma that you already have gets triggered by seeing so much trauma already. So it's not new trauma that happens to you because you work with them, but that the trauma that's inside you already, that you haven't worked out yet, that you haven't resolved yet, gets triggered because it recognizes itself in the trauma that you faced with. It's all of a sudden you look into a mirror and you see yourself. So it's not vicarious trauma, it's genuine trauma that's actually your own. Now, you don't have to agree with me on that one. I'm giving you a point of view. This is my point of view. This is how I understand myself. This is how I understand people. If it doesn't resonate with you, if at the end of the day it doesn't make sense to you in terms of your own life experience, well then you're very welcome not to take it on. So when you are traumatized by working with them, it's your own trauma that shows. When you take on the pain of others and the responsibility that you should make their lives better, and then the sense of failure that then you impose on yourself because you haven't succeeded in the way that you expected to, then on top of that, you're traumatizing yourself. But as to why you take that on, and why do you make it your responsibility, that still has to go back to what happened to you earlier in life. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Because the way to work with these people without shutting down, without becoming a brick wall where nothing penetrates, the way to stay open and compassionate and yet still not be traumatized by it is to actually deal with your own stuff. And then once you have, then you can be there openly and compassionately, and you will not be traumatized by the work that you do. And you will not be stressed by it to the same degree at all. But you'll be able to do it again more effectively. So, what I have to say now came out of my work as a doctor all those years. And as a family doctor, I got to see who got sick. So, who got sick with chronic fatigue, who got sick with fibromyalgia, who got sick with depression, chronic asthma, multiple sclerosis, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, colitis, eczema, psoriasis. It wasn't accidental. Now, when you go to a doctor, So you got a breakout of eczema, you got a rash, or you have an asthmatic attack, or you have inflammation of the intestines like Crohn's disease, or inflammation in the nervous system like in multiple sclerosis. What medication do they give you? They usually give you cortisol, a cortisol cream, or a cortisol tablet, or a cortisol inhaler. Anybody know what cortisol actually is? It's a stress hormone. It's a stress hormone. Now your body has a stress reaction. There's a gland on top of your kidney. The kidney is, kidney, renal means kidney, adrenal means on top of the kidney. So here in the back, on the top of your kidney, is a gland called the adrenal gland on top of the kidney. And the adrenal gland puts out two hormones. One is named after it. It's called adrenaline. You've heard about it. The other, the adrenal gland, like the brain, is a cortex. Cortex means bark, like the bark of a tree. So the adrenal gland has a cortex, which means like the bark, the tree, and the cortisol, and the cortex of the adrenal gland puts out another hormone named after it. So it's called cortisol, because it comes from the cortex of the adrenal gland. So you have these two stress hormones, adrenaline and the cortisol. Now why do we have them? I have them because, again, if I was threatening you, you'd have to be able to fight back or to escape. So that means you have to have more energy, more sugar in your body to give you more fuel. Your heart rate would have to increase so that it's pumping more blood to your muscles. Your muscle tone will have to get stronger so that you can fight back or to escape. And all this is achieved by adrenaline and cortisol. So that the stress response is actually a healthy response to a threat. You have more adrenaline and more cortisol so you can be powerful to fight back or to escape. But that's in the short term. In the long term, those same hormones would actually make you sick. So short-term stress is a healthy response to a threat that helps you survive. But long-term threat undermines your health because adrenaline in the long term will give you high blood pressure, will narrow your blood vessels, give you heart disease, all kinds of strokes and so on. And cortisol in the long term will elevate your sugar levels so you get diabetes. It'll give you ulcers in the intestines. It will thin your bones so you get osteoporosis. It'll shrink some organs in the brain. Now that, of course, has got its social economic implications because just as wealth is unequally distributed in our society, so is health unequally distributed in our society. A study here in Toronto showed that depending on which neighborhood you live in, the risk of cardiac arrest varies. In the more higher income neighborhoods, there's less cardiac arrest because those people are less stressed. And when you look at any marker of stress, or any marker of illness or health, people who are better off or more educated, they're healthier at the same time. They live longer and they're healthier. And that has to do with stress. But there are some stresses that are not externally imposed on us, but that we impose on ourselves. And those are the ones that I'll be addressing today. They're more immediate and they're more within our personal control. And that has to do with how do we stress ourselves? How do we traumatize ourselves? And this is where what I learned about who gets sick comes into it.